Hier, j'ai regardé des photos. J'étais très fatiguée après le travail. J'avais déjà mangé quand mon mari est rentré. Je lus ce livre en une nuit. What do all four of these tenses have in common? They are all in the French past tense. But here's what's incredible. French has 4 different past tenses, and each one tells a completely different story about when and how something happened in the past. One happened and finished. One was ongoing in the past. One happened before another past action. One is formal and literary. By the end of this fabulous video, you will know exactly when to use each one. Plus, I have an amazing story about Marc's weekend where you identify all the past tenses like a pro, and a free practice PDF with everything we cover today. If you watch my present tense video, you already know that French grammar can be simpler than English. Well, past tenses are where French gets a bit more complex, but I'll make it simpler for you. Vous êtes prêts? C'est parti! Now, before we get started, I mentioned a free PDF guide. All you need to do is input your name and email address in the link in the description box below, and today's lesson with so many bonuses will be sent directly to your inbox. Let's start with the most important past tense in French, le passé composé. This is the one you most often use in conversations. So the first question is, Sumo, how do I form the passé composé? Let me show you step by step how to build passé composé sentences. Step 1, choose your auxiliary verb. Most verbs use avoir as the helper, but some special verbs use être. Now, let's conjugate the verb avoir in the present tense. J'ai, tu as, il ou elle ou on a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ou elles ont. That's how you conjugate the verb avoir, okay? The most common helper verb we use. Now let's conjugate être. Je suis, tu es, il ou elle ou on est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils ou elles sont. And these are mainly for movement verbs. Now, step 2, we make the past participle. For regular verbs, like let's say the ER verbs, you drop the ER, as you can see beside me, and you only have the E with this accent at top, okay? So drop the ER, have an E, and put the accent on top. And so parler becomes parler, manger becomes manger. Do you see? I have dropped the ER in both of these verbs. For IR verbs, you drop the IR and you simply add an I. So let's take a look at finir. Remove the IR and you have only fini. Let's look at choisir. Remove the IR and only add an I. Choisir. Okay? And now for some RE verbs, you drop the RE and you add a U. So for instance, attendre becomes attendu. Vendre becomes vendu. And now, step 3, put it all together. So if, for instance, you want to say I spoke or I have spoken, it would be j'ai. Remember, you already conjugated it, plus parler. And it becomes what? J'ai parlé. Avoir is the auxiliary, and you put parler together, and you form your sentence. J'ai parlé. Or if you want to say you have finished, tu as fini. You see? We've conjugated fini into the passé composé, which is just fini, and you add tu as. Tu as fini. Or I want to say she sold or she has sold, elle a vendu. The same structure. Elle a and then vendu. If you wanted to use the auxiliary être to form the passé composé, let's say for instance I wanted to say I went, or I wanted to say I have gone, it's the same thing. I would say je suis allé. Je suis allé. Okay? For she left or she has left, I could say elle est partie. Elle est partie. And lastly, we arrived or we have arrived. Nous sommes arrivés. Nous sommes arrivés. So we're using the conjugated form of we are for être. All right? And so basically the pattern is what? Subject plus auxiliary plus past participle. That's all you need to form le passé composé. Okay? Now, when do we use the passé composé? The first instance is completed actions. So for example, j'ai mangé une pizza hier soir. You see, this is an action that has been done. I already had the pizza yesterday. It's finished. Or imagine this book. I say, elle a fini son livre. She's finished the book. She's finished reading the book. She's done. She started from the first page to the last page and she's done. We also use le passé composé for specific past events. So I can say, nous avons visité Paris la semaine dernière. Or even, il a appelé 3 fois. You see? These are for specific past events. We also use it for a series of completed actions. So let's say I'm recounting my day to my friend. I can say, je me suis réveillée, j'ai pris une douche et j'ai bu mon café. You see, this is a series of completed actions. Now you might be thinking, okay, Sumo, how do we know which auxiliary verb to use? Because I already mentioned avoir and I mentioned être for you. So for avoir, most verbs use avoir about 90% of the time. Tu as mangé, tu as parlé, elle a travaillé. Do you see I'm using avoir? Être is used with verbs of movement and change of state. Let me show you the most common ones. Now imagine going somewhere. I would say je suis allé. Je suis allé. And then imagine I'm coming, I would say je suis venu. Je suis venu. You see that it's movement. These are things that are happening. Or imagine somebody waving goodbye or somebody probably arriving. What would I say? Elle est partie. Elle est partie ou il est arrivé. Il est arrivé. And now let's picture somebody entering and exiting a door. I can say nous sommes entrés. Nous sommes entrés. Or vous êtes sortis. Vous êtes sortis. Now, the past participle changes endings to match who is doing the action. So for example, if a guy is saying I went, he will say je suis allé. Please look at what I wrote here. There's only one E, okay? But if it's a female that is saying I went, I would say je suis allé. The same pronunciation, but the spelling is different. Do you see that there's an extra E? If it's a mixed group of people, perhaps there are 10 guys and 10 girls, or there's even maybe 20 women and 1 man, we would say nu. But if it's maybe all female, maybe there are 20 females or just 10 females or whatever, only females, please, no guy there, we would say elles sont allées. Elles sont allées. Do you see an extra E and an S? So you have to be very, very careful. Now, remember that the verb être always used what we call Dr. and Mrs. Van der Trump verbs. Here is what Dr. and Mrs. Van der Trump means. These are the specific verbs that use être in the passé composé. You can take a screenshot of this if you want to remember them. I'm not going to go into depth in this video because I have a completely separate video where I explain what être and movement verbs are all about. You can watch that video after this one if you want the full details, okay? For now, please just remember movement and change equals être. The rest you can learn from my other video. Now, let's take a look at the next French past tense. L'imparfait is used for actions that were ongoing, repeated, or describe what things were like in the past. So what exactly is it? I'm sure you're like, huh? So what does that even mean? It's like a movie playing in the past. Like imagine a movie playing in the past. It was happening, continuing, or used to happen regularly. Think of it as a long flowing river of past actions, okay? And so here are the endings for l'imparfait. Ion, okay? These are the endings. So for example, I could say, je parlais, tu mangeais, elle travaillait. Now, let's take a look at when to use the imparfait. Number one is we use it for ongoing past actions. And this just means something was happening in the past and it wasn't finished, it was in progress. Think of it like a movie scene where the action is continuing. So for example, once again, we're looking at this book, you were in the middle of reading when something else happened. So you can see this is the book. I'm reading it and then maybe my phone rang or somebody walked in. And so I can say, je lisais quand tu as appelé. So I was reading when you called. Do you see? Or you can even use it when describing weather that was continuing. Il pleuvait ce matin. The key word here is was plus ing in English. If you can say was doing something, use imparfait. Now, you also use it for habitual past action. Used to. So for things you used to regularly do in the past, like, you know, your habits, your routines, things that happened repeatedly. So let's say, for example, something you did every day when you were younger. Quand j'étais petit, je buvais du lait chaque matin. Or maybe even family traditions that happened regularly. Nous allions chez grand-mère tous les dimanches. So the key phrase in English is used to. If you can say used to do something, use imparfait. Now, the third instance where you can use imparfait is for descriptions and background. Not this background, but you get what I mean. This is for describing what people, places, or things were like in the past, you know, just setting the scene. So for example, imagine you want to describe how someone looked. You could say, elle était très belle. Or if you want to describe what something was like, maybe you're somewhere you want to describe how the house is, you can say, la maison avait un grand jardin. Do you see? You're actually describing. The key word here is was or were for descriptions. And so if you're describing what something was like, use imparfait. So quickly, let me just show you the difference between imparfait and passé composé. I want you to think of it like this. Imparfait is what was happening like in the background. The passé composé is what interrupted or completed. So look at this sentence. Je regardais la télé quand le téléphone a sonné. So the regarder is the ongoing background action, okay? And the a sonné is the interrupted completed action. So if the phone hadn't rang, I'll probably have continued watching TV. But this is what happened. I'm here watching TV and boom, the phone rings. So I stopped that. Hello? Do you see? And now the next past tense, plus-que-parfait. This is so interesting. This is the past before the past action. Okay? Remember the diagram I showed in the beginning so that you can have an idea, but look at the diagram here again so you actually see it. Now, for plus-que-parfait, like I said, this is for actions that happen before another past action, and that's just the past of the past. And so how do you form a sentence? Like, how do you actually conjugate that? The formula is subject plus auxiliary, that's either avoir or être in the l'imparfait, plus participle. Let me take that again. You have the subject, then you have the auxiliary of avoir or être. But you have to have conjugated avoir or être in imparfait, and then you add the past participle. So for example, j'avais mangé. Do you see? Because the avoir in the imperfect tense is what? J'avais. Remember, we just looked at imparfait. So you should actually know the conjugation, all right? You can also have elle était partie or nous avions fini. Now, when do we use the plus-que-parfait? Quand je suis arrivé, elle avait déjà mangé. So do you see? Let me break it down for you. First sentence, elle avait mangé. She had eaten. Then, je suis arrivé. I arrived. Do you see that? The first action, then the second. What I'm saying is the past before the past. Let's look at another sentence. J'étais fatigué parce que j'avais beaucoup travaillé. You see, I was tired. Why? Because I had worked a lot. It's the past before the past. So why was I tired? Because I had worked a lot. Do you see? Before we finish, let me quickly mention two other past tenses you might encounter. Le passé simple, and this is the literary past. You'll see it in books, newspapers, and formal writing, but French people rarely use it in conversation. So for example, look at this sentence. Il mangea, il but, il partit. But please, for speaking French, just focus on the first three tenses we learned, okay? Le passé simple is mainly for reading comprehension, so do not stress yourself about that. The second is vernis de plus infinitive. And we call this the le passé récent. This expresses actions that just happened very recently. And people use it all the time in everyday conversations. And so, first of all, you need to know how to conjugate venir in the present tense. So we have je viens, tu viens, il, elle, on vient, nous venons, vous venez, ils, elles viennent. Okay, you understand how to conjugate venir now in present tense. So let's imagine I want to say I just ate. Take a look at this table. So for example, if I want to say I just ate, like I literally just finished eating, I would say je viens de manger. This is something that happened right now. That's why it's called le passé récent, the past recent. Or if I want to say you just ate, it will be what? Tu viens de manger. Il ou elle vient de manger. Nous venons de manger. Vous venez de manger. Ils ou elles viennent de manger. So do you see? It's something that just happened. I'm saying it's the recent past. It literally happened. You can also use it in past situations with imparfait. So if you take a look at this example, we have je venais de manger. So you can also say je venais de manger quand, tu venais de partir quand, elle venait d'appeler quand, nous venions d'arriver quand, vous veniez de finir quand, il venait de sortir quand. It's very useful for conversations whenever something just happened. But if you're a beginner, please just focus only on le passé composé. Don't stress yourself by learning every single thing. If this is your very first French video you ever stumbled upon, just focus on le passé composé, and with time, you can learn the other French past tenses. So now you understand all 4 French past tenses. Just like in my present tense video, where we learned that French present tense is actually simpler than English, past tenses show us where French is more specific. Are you ready to test your skill? Let's meet Marc and follow his interesting weekend adventure. All right, here's Marc's weekend story. Your job is to identify all French past tense verbs and figure out which tense each one is. Once you're done listening to me and you've read the story, pause it and then press play so that I can walk you along the answers, okay? You ready? Let's go. Le week-end dernier, Marc avait prévu de rester à la maison. Il était samedi matin et il pleuvait. Marc buvait son café quand son ami Paul a téléphoné. Paul lui a dit, j'ai acheté des billets pour le match. Marc a hésité parce qu'il n'avait pas fini ses devoirs. Finalement, il a décidé d'y aller. Ils sont partis ensemble vers le stade. Le match était fantastique. L'équipe de Marc a gagné 3-1. Après le match, ils ont mangé dans un restaurant. Marc était très content de sa journée. Quand il est rentré chez lui, il a réalisé qu'il avait passé une journée parfaite. So like I said, I need you to pause the video and count. How many passé composé verbs? How many imparfait verbs? How many plus-que-parfait verbs? Write your answers in the comment section. I want to know if you got it all. And so now, let me go through each one with you. For plus-que-parfait, we have avait prévu, n'avait pas fini, and avait passé. All right? For imparfait, we have 4. Était, pleuvait, buvait, était. And passé composé, we had 9. A téléphoné, a dit, est acheté, a hésité, a décidé, sont partis, a gagné, ont mangé, est rentré, a réalisé. These are all completed actions. You have been absolutely phenomenal today. Clap for yourself. You just mastered the 4 French past tenses. Okay, let's recap what we learned today. We learned that passé composé is for what? Good. Completed actions. We learned that imparfait is for ongoing or the habitual past. We learned that the plus-que-parfait is the past before the past, and the passé simple, which we rarely use when speaking French, guys. It's for literary or formal writing. Also, don't forget the passé récent. I know it's just a bonus, but it's used in case you ever see it or you hear it, you're like, oh, okay, this is what it sounds like. Don't forget, if you missed my present tense video, you can click the link above to check it out, or you can check in the description box below where I have linked it for you. So in that case, you will know all the essential French tenses for both the present and the past. Don't forget, if you love your free PDF guide for today's lesson, all you need to do is input your name and email address in the link in the description box below, and today's guide will be sent directly to your inbox. It includes all examples from today's lesson, Marc's complete story with detailed explanations, 25 additional practice sentences, timeline charts showing when to use each tense, answer key with full explanations, guys, and bonus irregular past participle list. The link, like I said, is in the description box below. All you need to do is click it, put your name and email, it's yours. Don't forget to tell me how many past tense verbs you spotted in Marc's story. Let me know in the comment section below. And if this video helped you understand French past tenses, please give it a thumbs up so that I know, and subscribe for more lessons just like these. Next week, we're tackling French future tenses. And trust me, they're going to surprise you with just how logical they are. I have the #1 secret I'm sure you've never heard before. You need to check out that video. Until I see you in the next video, bonne journée!